Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Andrew's Life. Today, I'm going to do a video driving through the north side of Anderson, Indiana. Now, for those of you that watch this type of content, I'm pretty sure that you've seen all type of videos, all type of sad, depressing videos talking a whole bunch of negative stuff about Anderson, Indiana. Now, granted, the population here in Anderson is a little over 55,000 people. So, like many other cities of that size, it's going to have its good and its bad parts. But anyhow, for those of you that are looking to move and you do not desire to live in some small town, you prefer to live in somewhat of a city environment, I would say about a couple months or so ago, I did a video of Kokomo, Indiana. So go check that video out. Now, Anderson is a lot like Kokomo, Indiana. There's a lot of similarities between Anderson and Kokomo. Now, I will say Kokomo probably has a little bit more going for itself, economically speaking, than Anderson does. And Kokomo is slightly bigger, population-wise, than Anderson. But on the plus side, the population density here in Anderson is a little lower than Kokomo. The population density here in Anderson is a little over 1,200 people per square mile. And it is 50 minutes outside of Indianapolis. It's a half hour outside of Muncie, Indiana. For those of you that are looking into possibly going to Ball States, or you got teenagers looking to go to Ball States, and Anderson is also only a half hour from your northern Indianapolis suburbs, such as Fishers, Noblesville, Carmel, and Westfield. And like I said, I'm currently driving through the north side of Anderson, Indiana. Now, this side of town, I mean, it's not the cheapest side of town to reside on, but at the same time, it's still very affordable. Now, with the current housing market, the housing prices around here, of course, like in many places that are desirable, have went up a little bit. I mean, I would say a couple of years or so ago, it used to be you can come around here and you can buy you a house around this area for around 50 grand. Sometimes you can get you a foreclosure for as low as 20 grand around this area. But with the housing market being the way it is currently, people are buying up houses like hotcakes all over the United States, to include Indiana. I would say at this point, the average cost of a home in this particular community is going to probably run you around $70,000 on the low end. Yeah, I would say around here on the low end, if you want a house that's move-in condition ready, I would say you're looking at around 70,000 bucks. Which, if you broke that down into a mortgage agreement of some sort, for those of you that are earning less than 40 grand a year, that, you know, the sum that you'll have to pay per month would still be very affordable. And by the way, for those of you that might notice a little spots on my windshield, my apologies. I've been busy doing a lot of other shit, so I haven't really had time to drive my van through the car wash. So my apologies for that. But anyways, this side of Anderson is one of the quieter parts of the city. I mean, Anderson, in my humble opinion, is not a bad city at all. I mean, it really isn't. I mean, the majority of the neighborhoods in this city are relatively safe and quiet. Now, I will tell you folks that yes, there are certain areas here in the city that are a bit sketchy. And some of those areas are a bit on the noisy side. But I will say, for the most part, if you go to the worst of the worst in this city, it's not going to be half as bad as the worst of the worst in larger cities, such as Indianapolis. Now, some people will tell, a lot of people who know Anderson, who know Mid-Indiana, might tell you that Anderson is a bad city. Anderson is drug infested. And yes, there are drugs here in Anderson. Yes, there are a lot of people that live here that do have issues with drugs and things of that sort. But as I say, this city has got a population of over 55,000 people. So if you come into a city like this one looking for utopia, you're not going to get it. However, this is not a bad city. Depending on what neighborhood you live in here in Anderson, Indiana, will determine your experience here in Anderson, Indiana. So Anderson, Indiana is like really many other parts of the country. It all depends on what neighborhood that you choose to reside on. Now, West Anderson, according to many people who know Anderson, is the worst side of Anderson to live. Now, me personally, I think the west side of Anderson is it's very much hit and miss. West Anderson is very much hit and miss. You might go down one street and it might be rowdy, people playing their music loud, people hanging out on the corner, doing whatever they do. But then when you go a block or two over, everything is peace and quiet. You might even have people out walking their dogs or pushing their babies in the strollers and things of that sort. So I personally would say West Anderson is not as bad as what some people make it out to be. I would say West Anderson is a very hit and miss type of area of the city. And then you got East Anderson, which, you know, East Anderson is okay. Parts of East Anderson is a little crowded. The houses are like real close in together. Then of course you got South Anderson, which is the most expensive part of the city. It's where a lot of your bigger homes are going to be located. And then of course you got this side of Anderson, the north side of Anderson. And this side of Anderson, as I say, you can buy you one of these houses for around 70 grand or so. And a lot of these houses do come with a decent amount of land. You'll get, when I say decent, I'm talking you'll get at least, I mean, some of these houses you might get over 1/4 of an acre. A lot of times around here, you'll get at least 2/10 of an acre. Now, there's other parts of this side of town where you'll get less. You'll get less than 6,000 square feet of land. But I would say if you're looking for a few amenities if you're looking for a few city-like amenities, not the metro city, but just city-like amenities, Anderson is another good alternative. I mean, like I said, Anderson is a lot like Kokomo, except a tad smaller. But if you're looking to move to Anderson and you have the money, I mean, this side of Anderson is a wonderful place to live. It really is. I mean, on this side of Anderson, it's quiet. I mean, for the most part, it's quiet. It's safe. A lot of your houses are not going to be super close together. And I will be doing videos of different parts of the city. But given that Anderson is not your typical small town, it's a small city, it's going to take more than just one video for me to cover Anderson. I mean, for me to effectively cover Anderson, it's going to take several videos. So that's just how it's going to be here. Now, in some of these neighborhoods here in Anderson, despite the fact that the population here is over 55,000 people, in some of these neighborhoods you will still get the small town feeling. Like here in North Anderson, you will still get the small town feeling. But yeah, I get so sick and tired of people doing videos about cities like this one, and all they want to do is talk about all the negative aspects of the city. It's drug infested, it's this, it's that, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you got people that be talking about Anderson as if it was Detroit, Michigan or something. I mean, no disrespect to Detroit, Michigan, but I'm just saying. And there's a world of difference between your poor communities here in Anderson versus your poor communities in Indianapolis. I mean, the poor communities here in Anderson are much nicer, much safer, much quieter, and the housing prices are even much cheaper compared to some of the hoods of Indianapolis. But, you know, some of the good parts of Anderson is I would say, out of all the Indiana counties, Anderson is one of the cheapest cities where you can live. I mean, for the most part, your property taxes are fairly low. And for the most part, your property taxes are fairly low. And when it comes to city ordinances, for those of you that are builders and you got somewhat of a creative mind and you like to build stuff, like maybe you might want to build a little small building in your backyard, or you might want to do some renovations or addition, or put an addition onto your existing home. I mean, Anderson is one of those type of cities where, for the most part, you're not gonna have a bunch of government officials up in your stuff telling you what you can and can't do. I mean, basically here in Anderson, as long as you don't piss anybody off, you can basically do whatever the hell you want to do. Well, don't take that literally. I mean, you know, when I say that, use common sense. But for the most part here in Anderson, I mean, there's certain things that technically you're not allowed to do. Like if you do certain type of renovations, technically you're supposed to pull permits. But if you choose not to, because you want to save a little bit of money and headache, Anderson is one of those type of cities where, for the most part, as long as you don't piss anybody off, you can pretty much do whatever you want to do. I mean, city officials are not going to be up in your business 24/7 around here like they would be in other cities. I mean, Anderson is a pretty laid back, chilled out city to live. I mean, for the most part, people here are pretty nice. And then, like I told you earlier, it's not too far away from other areas that offer a slightly stronger economy, such as Indianapolis and some of the Indianapolis suburbs. I mean, if you live here in Anderson, I mean, you can basically be all through the entire city of Indianapolis within an hour from here. So what I'm saying is, if you're here in Anderson, you can go from here in Anderson all the way to the southwest side of Indianapolis within an hour. Like here in North Anderson, there's certain parts around here where, honestly, if you didn't know any better, you might think you were in like Kentucky or Tennessee or something. There are a few areas here in the city to where your yard will be very hilly with plenty of trees on it. I mean, there's certain parts of this side of town where if you didn't know any better, you would think you were in Gatlinburg or something. So for those of you that are not from Indiana or not from Anderson, I'm here to let you people know, don't let other people tell you how bad Anderson is. Don't let other people tell you how depressing it is here in Anderson, because Anderson is not a bad city. A lot of good people here in Anderson. There's a lot of nice, quiet, safe, and affordable neighborhoods here in Anderson that you can live in. And Anderson does have a couple of nice parks that you can go to. The biggest park is going to be downtown. I can't think of what the name of that park is, but if you're in downtown Anderson and you drive north of downtown past the Big Boy restaurant, you'll run into the park. I mean, you can't miss it. It's a huge park. You got a bunch of trails, and there's like a ton of playgrounds for the kids. You even got bike trails and all kinds of stuff going on. I'm going to turn around and take you guys through the AU campus real quick. I mean, given that we're on this side of town, it's only appropriate that we take a little drive through the college area here, AU, Anderson University. We're going to take a little ride through the campus. Well, maybe not through the campus, but through the general area. First, I gotta turn it the other way, though. Here are some of the, let's see here. I think these are some of the dorms that the students who go to the college stay in. But yeah, if you come here to Anderson and you drive around the city, I mean, after a little bit, you'll come to understand, as I've come to understand, that Anderson is not a bad city. See, all that talk about how Anderson is drug infested and crime infested and people are junkies and just all the negative rhetoric that a lot of times is associated with Anderson. I mean, if you come here to Anderson, and you drive through this city on your own, I mean, you'll come to the conclusion that Anderson is not a bad city. It really isn't. I mean, you got a lot of beautiful neighborhoods here in Anderson, the majority of which are extremely affordable. And Anderson is like any other city in the country. I mean, your overall experience here in Anderson is going to largely depend on a few things. It's going to depend on the lifestyle that you choose to live, B, the people who you choose to associate yourself with, and of course, you're going to want to be mindful of the neighborhood that you choose to live in, depending on what it is you're looking for. I mean, if you're looking for an area that's nice and quiet and relatively low-key, if you come over here to North Anderson, you will definitely get all that. You will definitely get all that. And depending on what part of North Anderson that you choose to reside on, you will also get some of that small town feel. And there's even parts of North Anderson where you'll get some of the country feel. I mean, you can get all that good stuff right here in North Anderson.